presentation mode.
Okay. Is that better?
That's great.
Great. So today I'm going to be giving you guys a quick talk. It's really a big picture talk focusing on brain stimulation, meditation, and really the goal is to let you know of specific technologies that exist that you may not be aware of. I'll learn a little bit about the brain, although we won't get too scientific. And then hopefully 3, encourage you to pursue ideas that you're passionate about that can one day be created into something real, right? And so that's kind of the underlying story of this talk today, is something that I've been working on, one of many projects that I work on, but this one in particular I've been working on for over a decade. And it's finally kind of made it to the public. So big ideas take a lot of risk, a lot of hard work, and hopefully you guys can see that. So these are my disclosures, just so you know. I own a startup as well as being a faculty at the Medical University of South Carolina, and I also consult for various organizations that develop new technology like this. And we have some patents and donations that we get. And given the era of Zoom meetings, I like to kind of put myself in relation to perhaps where all of you all. So I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, right here where the star is, at the Medical University of South Carolina. I'm an assistant professor of psychiatry. I'm a neuroscientist by training. I work, this is my office where the red arrow is. It's on the 5th floor of the Institute of Psychiatry. So that's the window that's right behind me. If you could see me on the video, that's there. And MUSC is really a wonderful place for innovation and research. And we have a lot of the tools and resources for resiliency, for mood disorders, for anxiety, for the whole gamut. We're a leader in the state and in the nation. And the overall mission of my lab, which is NeuroX Lab, is to help people feel better. And this is a graph of the prevalence of major depression in 2017. And it's split by gender, age, and race. And overall, 17.3 million adults will attest to having at least one major depressive episode in 2017. And so this represents about 7% of all US adults, which is a lot. And it doesn't matter what race or age you are, although it does seem to trend that if you are younger, you'll have your higher prevalence of depression, although split between males and females and races, everybody's affected. So nobody is immune to neuropsychiatric problems. And in fact, we all deal with this every day. So our goal here is to develop technologies that help treat neuropsychiatric disorders. So help people get undepressed, less anxious, more resilient. And all of these interventions are non-pharmacological, meaning we don't use conventional medications, we use energy. And so what does that mean? Well, the brain is an electrochemical organ. So if you were to take home just one highlight from my talk today, and something to share at dinner or with your friends, it's that the brain is like a bundle of wires. You can put energy into your brain using electricity or magnetism to activate the cells in the brain. Now, besides energy, you can use things like medication. Medication actually are molecules that bind to specific areas of the cells that make them activate. So rather than sending molecules into the brain to bind and then fire these cells in what's called an action potential, we use electricity and magnetism. And broadly, this term is called brain stimulation. Now, this is not brain stimulation. So putting a magnet on your head or touching one of those static machines is not brain stimulation, although that's generally what people think of when they haven't heard of what it is before. This is really what brain stimulation realistically looks like. So I want to walk through each of these just briefly so you get the broad picture of what we do here. The most commonly well-known form of brain stimulation is called transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. So this person's receiving TMS. It's FDA approved for depression. It's billed to insurance, so insurance pays for this treatment if you're depressed. And we place an electromagnetic coil on your head, and we deliver magnetic pulses to your brain. Now, that's the only one that you can actually get pretty readily. There's many places in North Carolina, South Carolina, Maryland, Virginia that offer TMS that bill to insurance and to Medicare. So it's widely available for folks who are depressed, aren't doing better on their medications, and want to get better. It works really well. About 60% of folks that receive this treatment get undepressed, so they get better. And about 35% of those actually get all the way better, so they're no longer depressed anymore. Now, the rest of it is kind of interesting, that are technologies that are a little more complicated. So things like electrical stimulators that you can implant directly into the brain for Parkinson's. So if you have a motor dysfunction that's called Parkinson's disease, you can actually reverse that by putting electrodes into the brain, or you can place electrodes in your chest to activate different nerves in the body. We can place electrodes on your skin and deliver small levels of electricity, so less than it takes to light a flashlight. In this case, this person's connected to like a 9-volt battery, something that could be in a TV remote, and those activate brain circuits. In the future, we hope that perhaps we can use light. So rather than electricity or magnetism, you can create cells in the body that respond to light. So these people are receiving light therapy. We also can deliver sound to the brain. So this is a computer model of what it looks like to deliver sound. In this case, it's called ultrasound, to deep parts of the brain. And that actually activates parts of the brain. We just finished a study where we showed that that can help with pain. And then there's intrinsic forms of brain stimulation. So you can actually train your body to work in specific ways. And this person's meditating, and we're recording off his scalp. So today I'm going to talk about really two things, because this area is so broad, and something that I think you guys would find really interesting is combining brain stimulation with meditation to manage stress and to really lead to a better, healthy life. Now, meditation, when I say meditation, most people think of a monk in a monastery sitting cross-legged away from a computer. But realistically, how the majority of people meditate in the United States is in a chair. So in my practice, I meditated in a chair in my office. So it's really a practice that's accessible, that's not really too difficult or unapproachable. Although the movies and TV shows like to make it be this quite a dramatic scene, it's really just sitting in a chair and breathing and relaxing and training your brain to repeatedly manage your stress. So this is a study where they took 65 different people. Yeah, I think I'm okay. 65 different people from a workplace that were stressed out. They took 65 of them and had them meditate for 8 weeks, and they had 65 of them do a control version of meditation where they just had some sort of relaxation techniques, but no trained meditation. And after 8 weeks, the people meditating had a 65% reduction in their stress levels. Whereas in the control group, there was really no reduction in stress. And so 8 weeks of meditation at home really helps manage and helps you self-regulate your stress. And meditation is not only used for stress, it's used for a variety of different things, like focus. We work with professional baseball players who meditate before they go out and pitch on various different major league and minor league baseball teams, and they use it to focus so they could strike out the side. You can improve your mood or compassion with your partner. You can manage aggression and your own self-compassion and learn to love yourself. It helps people work better. And obviously, there's a variety of different clinical applications to treat different neurological and psychiatric disorders using meditation. So the take home is, and I think a lot of you already know this, meditation is great. The problem is meditation is really hard, especially if you've never done it before. So a lot of people will start meditating, but will find it difficult. They say they can't quiet their mind, or they can't sit still for 5 minutes. Or you'll sit there and you'll be bored and you won't be able to pay attention or focus. Or perhaps people want immediate effects of something. We live in a society where we want instant gratification and don't want the practice. In fact, these are all of the things that perhaps keep you from getting the positive effects of a long-term meditation practice. So that being said, over the last 7 years now in the lab, and in a private company, which we've created out of this, is trying to make meditation more broadly accessible to everybody by compressing the time it takes and reducing the difficulty of meditation for beginners. So what's really amazing is you can take meditators and put them in a machine that takes pictures of your brain. It's called an MRI. And we can actually look at the different parts of the brain that are more or less active during meditative states compared to people that have really a novice or no experience meditating. So if you're a long-term practiced meditator, you can actually change the way that parts of your brain are active. So these are mood and sensory areas of the brain known as the prefrontal cortex and the insula, and the somatosensory cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. So all of these areas are associated with things like positive affect, motivation, and really connection with yourself and with others. So it's embodiment. Now, you can only really modulate these parts of the brain with long-term experience meditation. It's quite difficult to do it in one session. In fact, some people take 10 years or more to be able to do this willingly. So from that, and given all of the equipment we have in the lab, we thought, can we develop a tool that can activate these meditation areas of the brain? And what happens if we activate them? So we can actually take pictures of everybody's brain, and then using a computer, create a 3D model of your brain. And then actually, you can see we colorize it based on the type of tissue that's in the brain. So in this case, the blue is really your brain, and the yellow is your skull and your scalp. And then what we could do is create specific models that allow us to show where we can deliver energy to. The problem is, how do you know where on your head to place electrodes or an energy source to target that part of the brain? So we have the ability using computers. And so if you're interested in doing this, you would go on and do your undergraduate degree and then go on to do a master's or a PhD level work. And you would train your career to do computer models. And eventually you'll be able to generate these beautiful brain images and figure out, essentially, if we place an electrode over your left eye and an electrode on your right temple, we can activate parts of the brain that I showed you in this prior slide. So that was the idea. And we use a technology called transcranial direct current stimulation. So this is that low level electrical stimulation that operates off a 9-volt current source. It fits in the palm of your hand. And we used to place electrodes like this. And so this is an old research coordinator of mine, and she was an undergraduate student at the College of Charleston. Now she's a medical student in Europe. And so she's actually demonstrating what it looked like when we ran the early research trials over the years. There's 2 electrodes placed on her head, and with a really kind of crude headband that would fix these electrodes to her head. You can see she's listening to an audio recording of a meditation script that was custom made for us. And she would sit there and receive brain stimulation while meditating for 20 minutes. We did this in dozens of people over the years to see if there's an effect that perhaps stimulation increases the effect of meditation alone. So how would you do that? Well, you would have a group of folks that would meditate with fake stimulation and a group of folks that would meditate with real stimulation, and you would compare the two. So that's what we did. And you can see that stimulation actually boosts the effects of meditation alone. So in the black here, we would ask people to rate how they felt before and after their meditation sessions. So we would ask them if they felt excited or they felt calm, which is really the major reason why these folks were meditating. And you can see that after regular meditation or sham stimulation, people were about 5% more calm. But with stimulation, you actually increase these effects by 250%. So it makes you 15% more calm. And this is really independent of the power of electricity that you put into the scalp. So low level and high levels of electricity both increase your perceived ability to meditate. So people after said, wow, this is like the first time I've ever felt like what meditation really is supposed to be like. They perceive an immediate quietening of their mind. They feel less restless. And these effects normally take many weeks to do if you were to just meditate alone, and if you made it all the way through. And in fact, we're able to activate the parts of the brain associated with meditation and then make the effects perceived to be immediate, which is really our first major step in making a technology that can help a lot of people. Then we went off and ran a bunch of different studies. Some of them are ongoing right now at our international collaborators at the University of Milan. Some of them have been done at retreat centers where people would receive brain stimulation while they're at a silent retreat for up to a week, where they receive brain stimulation twice a week. This is some data from a 40-person study in New York City, where two groups of 20 people came and as a group sat together and received brain stimulation during a 20-minute guided meditation. And you can see that stimulation reduced stress by 75% from before to after the session in 20 minutes. People felt like they had a clear mind, were more calm, and were significantly less restless. So after we've kind of run a bunch of these trials, we thought, well, we need to make this accessible to as many people as we can. And so from there, we went on to create a small startup based in Charleston here that develops what's called Zendo. And Zendo looks like this. Now it looks like a really clean setup where you have these sticky pads that you can place on your head. They attach to your forehead and to your temple. And you can meditate while receiving stimulation. The stimulation is safe. It causes no damage to the brain. It's not painful at all. And it's really a pretty big advancement in the field of meditation. So for those that find it really difficult to practice or are just stuck in their practice, they usually turn to a meditation assistance device to help guide their practice. This is really one of the first technologies that you can actually do to activate the parts of the brain involved in meditation and perhaps just make you feel good. So right now, there's hundreds of people out there using this technology, and they range in types of people like that have no meditation practice whatsoever. I could imagine some of you guys out there may have never meditated before, don't know what it feels like, may find it difficult. Many of the people that use Zendo are just like that. But we also have elite performers and meditators who use this to continually improve and refine their practice. Now, I always like to say that not everybody has a stimulator or has a big lab or has access to a tool like this. So if you don't have one of these, which you probably don't, you should try to just breathe, right? So one practice that I like to do in my office or when I'm on an airplane is to just focus on my breath. And this is a good take home for you guys to consider, because meditation, the word is a really loaded term. You may think, wow, I need a special outfit. I need to sit on the floor or get a cushion or wear special socks. None of that is true. All you need to do is really sit straight, and you can close your eyes or keep them open, keep your feet flat on the floor, and just focus on your breath for about 10 minutes. What I like to do personally is to inhale for 5 to 7 seconds and then exhale for 5 to 7 seconds and just relax. You can focus on the air coming through your nose and out your nose, or the rise and fall of your belly. You can do this for 10 minutes, and I guarantee you're going to feel better after. So if there's any time where you get worked up, you feel stressed, you feel like perhaps you want to send a really angry email to somebody who's bothering you, or you're just generally annoyed, right? Take a deep breath, try to settle in, and focus on your breath, and it'll help a lot. Now, the last thing I want to just add here is that there's a lot of good free content for meditation. UCLA in Los Angeles has these free guided meditations that I refer people to all the time. And they range in length from 3 minutes to 20 minutes. And they range in effects from just breathing to more mind-body practice. And so if you guys go or Google UCLA guided meditation, you can play them. They're in English and in Spanish, and they're really a great resource. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. If you guys want to learn about any more technology that we do, if you guys are in undergraduate degree training programs and want to get a PhD or want to summer here and do research, there's all sorts of programs that allow you to come and do research and grow intellectually as a scientist and as a person. So we do a lot of interesting stuff like going into zero gravity and working with NASA and astronauts, all the way to creating technology that doesn't exist. So this was also about 10 years of work, from something that I came up with as an idea to being able to run several studies and developing into something that now you can actually buy online. And so one of the kind of take-home messages is, if you have an idea and you believe in it, there's nothing that can really stop you or get in the way. And over my life, I've seen a lot of roadblocks here in trying to get this technology to a state that it's in. And being strong and committing to your project, surrounding you with people that'll help, and ultimately finding a way is really kind of how to get it done. So with that, I want to say thank you so much, and I'll leave time for some questions. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much for that, sir. Thank you. That's some great information. Appreciate that. Does anybody in the audience have any questions for our speaker?
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, my name is Damian Neville. I'm from Turning Point Workforce Development in Rocky Mount, and I do apologize. I was having some technical difficulties at the beginning of the presentation, and I may have missed. You may have answered the question I'm about to ask, so I apologize. But in terms of teaching or encouraging meditation, are there any studies or reports that show that how meditation is a better deterrent to problematic children who, instead of maybe like out of school suspension or in school suspension or detention, that actually showing them how to meditate to deal with problematic issues is a better option than those other disciplinary actions?
You know, that's a really good, keen question. I'm not aware of anyone that's doing that. I'm aware of a bunch of different studies that train inmates in prisons to meditate, and those effects are quite profound. There's folks that do offer meditation in the classroom as a class. I've never seen it as kind of a replacement for discipline, although it's a really good idea, and something I'm going to sleep on for sure.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, but as far as your question, as far as dealing with kids in that situation, even as for slight meditation, I had my daughter doing some breathing exercises instead of me jumping on her the way I would normally do, and it works out for her. And something like the breathing exercise that we did earlier, before I even got back to my daughter, within 10 minutes, she passed out and went to sleep. So she got back in her resilience zone, and when she woke up, we was able to talk about the things that we needed to talk about previously before she passed out.
Yeah, that meditation for me has been a task. Because I would start out maybe doing maybe like 10 or 15 minutes as a target, and then I realized that my mind would begin to drift on, any little sound that I picked up in the room, or any little creak in the house, or a car passing by. So, I would, instead of trying to do 10 or 15 minutes, I would, let me try to do a minute where I can just get, my mind can completely shut down. And I'm still working my way up. I still can't do no more than maybe a minute, but my goal is to get it to 5. And eventually I hope to be able to do it, longer than that, the Buddha monk style. But right now, if I can get a good minute out of meditation, I'm doing pretty good.
Wow. Oh, that's great right there. So at this time, we're going to take maybe a few minutes.
Hang on, Byron.
There was a couple
Just a second, Byron.
Did you want me to answer those? I'd hate
Yes,
Yeah, that's
please.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, so there's a couple questions here about electroshock therapy, or ECT. So interesting you guys bring that up. ECT stands for electroconvulsive therapy. We offer that here in the clinic down the hall from my office. It's really one of the most effective treatments for depression, but it's sometimes really the last line therapy, where you actually have to go and get anesthesia, and then we give you about 12 sessions over a month. But about 80% of the folks that do get ECT get all the way better from depression. Now, the difference between ECT and what we're using here to enhance meditation is about 1,000 times less energy. So it really comes down to two things. One, where is the electricity going into your brain? What brain targets? And then how strong that electricity is. So in the case of meditation, we're actually activating different parts of the brain. So the electrodes are placed somewhere else on the head. And then the energy is turned down so much compared to ECT, which causes a seizure. And that seizure is part of the therapeutic process for ECT. Here, it just feels like a little tingling sensation on your head. And both of them, though, are really safe, short-term and long-term. So there's really no difference in safety, and there's no short or long-term negative effects of the technology behind TDCS, or transcranial direct current stimulation, which is what we use for the meditation work.
Any more questions from the chat room?
Dr. B, interested just as a closing, a lot of the people on the call run different programs in community, work in schools, work in different settings in the community. What kind of parting advice would you leave us all with in terms of how people can start to think about like implementing some of these ideas or better serving the people they work with?
Yeah, so a couple things about that. First, some of the technologies are available to everyone, and some of them are available to folks who are 18 and over. And I would say there's really to think about the hierarchy and spectrum of your ability to integrate different tools into your community practice, right? So the most basic forms of intervention are where you get to interact with the attendees at your center. And this is just kind of a verbal group session. Eventually, we move up to digital interventions, things like apps and computer-based cognitive and meditative technologies. Then you can step up one step further to biofeedback technology, which is not stimulation, but it's really a sensor-based approach where you can place sensors on the head and then measure the brain activity and train folks to control their intrinsic brain signature. Ultimately, then we get to kind of the most interesting and most powerful technologies, which are the stimulations, things like the work that we do here with Zendo There's also other technology we're developing in the same kind of ballpark. But ultimately, it's not about the tools, it's about the people. So it's really, are you authentic to your practice, and how much can you care and relate to your folks that makes the biggest impact? Or at least that's kind of how I see it. These tools are really secondary to ourselves and our own interpersonal connections. So I think you guys are all doing really amazing work. I envy all of you for the time and effort you put in, and I know you guys are all working really hard out there. And I'm always available if you guys want to shoot me an email, you guys have any questions, you run into anything online or anything that I can do to help, just go to our lab website, shoot me an email right from there, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you so much for being with us. And thank you for the time. Feel free to share gratitude in the chat, everybody.
Again, I want to thank Dr. Bashar for giving us his time today. And these the slides that he have, they will be emailed to anybody who wants them. So again, I would like to thank him for joining us today. And Ms. Hillard, can we please go back for a second to slide number 5 before we go into our breakout session, please? Oh, none of this information would be possible without some of the people that's on slide 5. Hold on. Okay, so this right here, we want you to meet our community board. I'm sorry I didn't do this earlier. I was going off the reading points, but right now in our audience, from our community board, we have Yolanda Thorne. She's a Martin Middle School counselor. And next we have Felicia Cofield. She's a pastor at World Healing Christian Center. We also have Carlin Jordan. He's an officer at Tarboro Police Department. And we have Ms. Debbie Futrell. She's a non-voting member, but she offers great energy and great information for us to keep us on task and to help us do the things that we need to be done. We have this other guy named Byron Hall that you hear his voice. Like I said, I had an adolescent parenting program and I work in the community with the youth. So, but that was in the past. But now, next we have Mr. Matthew Johnson. He's with Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office in Tarboro, North Carolina. But last but not least, we have Miss Yolanda Ray Henderson, and I believe she's also a counselor at Edgecombe Middle School. I can't see the name, but I'm hoping I'm saying that right. But this is our community board, and along with Seth and Vici, they help us get out the information that we got out here today, along with Ms. Taylor and Ms. Payton, doing the behind the scenes, keep us going. So I want to say thank you and make sure these people get appreciation for all the work that they do. Thank you.
Hi, Yolanda.
Hello.
Love my Edgecombe County peeps.
Hello.
This is Miss Ward from Bullet School.
So good to hear your voice.
Glad to be here.
Okay, and at this time, for the sake of time, it's 12:50, and now we're going to do a short breakout session to reflect on what we just heard and build connections. So you're going to be sent into small groups for a few minutes, and you're going to discuss. First, you're going to introduce yourself. Then you're going to talk about what brings you into this space. And next, what was one interesting thing from the presentation that stood out to you? And last but not least, we will share some questions on the chat. So, and after that, we will we'll have some updates, and we will also be having a listening circle for people who would like to stay on. And the listening circle will be ran by, I think Miss Yvette Richardson, I believe. I'm not looking at the name, but I think that's right. So Seth and Vici, I want to pass it on to you right now for the updates from ROI before we go into the break or after.
Yeah, so we're going to hop into breakout groups right now for about just before 1 o'clock. We'll come back. And so the questions you're answering are in the chat. There's not going to be a moderator or anything. So once you're in the group, anyone can start, just kind of like kick off a discussion, sort of who you are, what stuck out to you from the presentation. And then you'll get pulled back around like a little before 1, and then we'll jump into some updates and additional information. So
thank you very much.
That sounds good. I think we'll get teleported shortly.
Okay,
All
what
right.
slide is this paper?
I'm back.
I think we've all successfully returned.
Okay, what slide are we on?
We're about to jump into right after the breakout, so just can jump into some updates. We can take it from here if you want, Byron.
Okay, there you go. Now turn it over to Seth and Vici. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, nailed it. Sweet. So yeah, excited to see everyone. Hope you all enjoyed the talk. I just had a really interesting, short breakout conversation about just the idea of, it sounds a little wild at first to be electrically stimulating your brain, but then when you see the results, it's kind of like, I could see how it would be interesting to like get a little more support to get better at things like meditation. So anyway, it's like fun to get kind of an outside perspective on some of the cutting edge work happening that might give us some inspiration. So yeah, for the next 25, 30 minutes, wanted to just share some updates kind of like what ROI has been doing in the last 3 months, and then some exciting upcoming things that y'all and people you work with might be able to get involved with. So just want to like bring us back to kind of context and where we are, and kind of reiterate that at the core of a lot of what we do, we believe that people are not to blame for the trauma that they experience, and that oftentimes that trauma is perpetuated by systems and institutions and policies and things like that, and that we as people all have innate resilience. And one of the things that always reminds me of that is just thinking about the history of the place that we live and how many incredible leaders there are who have been fighting for equality and rights. And just a nod to Judge Tepper earlier and the Freedom Hill shirt, like we know that Princeville is the first town incorporated by freed slaves after the Civil War, and that there's still a really powerful movement there to preserve the history. So I think a lot of times it helps to just remember like our own history and how can we tap into and build on that resilience rather than taking a kind of blame or deficit approach. And then the other thing I wanted to make sure to say is that it's not possible for us to have this conversation about healing from trauma and building resilience without having a conversation about anti-racism or racism, and just realizing that in a really similar way, racial inequity is a problem of bad policy as well, and that a lot of times the policies that perpetuate systemic racism are closely related to some of the historical trauma that we see. And at the same time, we know that denial is the heartbeat of racism. And so if we ignore or deny or don't talk about that, in many ways, we are upholding the systematic racism that already exists. So I'm just gonna review really quickly a little bit of the history of the organization and what we've done in the last couple of years that's brought us here. And as you're listening, it might help to think about just how, if any of this stuff might also be connected to anti-racism and how we can continue to work on that as well. So yeah, cool timeline. ROI started in summer 2017. Some of the people on this call were part of that original group. And kind of the first thing that we did that summer was interview groups of parents and providers in the community, mostly in the Tarboro area, but there's, I think a lot of what they said generalizes beyond that. And then brought together over a series of probably the first like 5 or 6 community meetings like this that we had, we were doing exercises around building a systems map. And so people were sort of reflecting on the interview results, and then also kind of bringing in their own experience to try to understand like how was all this trauma showing up and why, and what would be a good place to start. So ended up working to build this map, which many of you have seen, documents a lot of information, and then did a process to say like, within all of that, what is it telling us and where's the right place to start? And so some of the summary takeaways from the mapping process that people named were that our current system on aggregate, no one person, no one agency, but in total, moves away from healing trauma because it segregates and isolates people away from opportunities for connection and healing. So you can think of things like suspension, jails, those types of things as being segregating and isolating. And that the current system, as a result, upholds historical trauma and produces future generations of people who still hold that energy in their bodies. And so we have this opportunity uniquely to maybe interrupt or change some of those generational patterns. So we then did a couple of workshops about identifying, like, okay, if we want to change this, what are the highest leverage places to intervene? And in that process, a couple of areas of the map really stood out as kind of strategic places to start. And so those three areas were right here. The first was learning about trauma and how to respond, just like building more common language. The second was thinking through how do we create new practices that shift away from punishment and towards healing. And then finally, how do we help people stay connected to opportunities for school, work, leadership, so that long-term, those who have experienced trauma and have healed are in the position to provide healing for others. So yeah, after that, it really became a question of like, what are the pieces we need in place to start executing on this strategy? So one of the first things we did was form the community board, which Byron already kind of talked about. And this group helped us really do that learning a piece, so educating folks. So we ended up, I mean, in the last couple of years, over 4,500 people have participated in a 1 or 2 hour awareness building presentation about trauma. A lot of that lately has been led by local trainers. And then over 450 people have been through one of the 2-day Reconnect for Resilience trainings. I think many of you on the call have, and this is what Henrietta was saying, they might have some spaces. So if you haven't been in one, that could be a chance. And then from that group, 23 local folks have become certified as trainers in Reconnect for Resilience. So we now have a lot of local leaders across a lot of spaces leading those trainings, which is awesome. And there's kind of several more people in the pipeline, and hopefully next year there'll be an opportunity for more people to access that. And so, yeah, it's just been amazing to kind of see a lot of local leadership being built. And now we're starting to think about like what comes next. So gonna turn it over to Seth to kind of introduce the next part of this.
So building off of what Vici shared with us, really excited to announce today that we're launching a program called the Resilient Leaders Initiative. And this has been in the works for about the past year, since before COVID, and then have been doing a lot of planning work during COVID. And the big idea behind this is working with local agencies and local organizations to become more trauma informed, to get resources and support to implement this strategy that the community has named, the learning, healing, and connecting. How can we change practices to be less punitive and be more restorative and skill building? And so I just want to give a big thanks to the Barnhill Family Foundation Anonymous Trust for funding this program. And one reason that it's focused on agencies and organizations goes back to this idea that we really want to like interrogate kind of the patterns that exist in the system and create new practices that allow us to like support healing and don't blame any individual people. And so kind of connected to all this, Resilient Leaders Initiative is modeled after a lot of different accelerator programs. But as you can see from this map, almost all those programs are based in urban areas. And one of like the core goals of ROI is to shift the narrative of the urban and rural divide, especially around technology and innovation. And we just want to build on the deep assets and strengths of our rural communities and of amazing places like Edgecombe County. So the Resilient Leaders Initiative is going to be based in Edgecombe County, and it'll be one of the first programs that seeks to really explicitly address historical trauma and racism as the cause of present day outcomes, and then focus on public institutions, not just startup agencies. So it could be law enforcement, could be schools, could be nonprofits in the area, any agencies that have been here for a long time and served community and will continue to be here. We'd love to work with them as part of the Resilient Leaders Initiative to make these shifts in practices and policies. And so what this will look like is a 9-month process. It'll start in March or April of 2021. And really in the first phase, it'll be digging into understanding more deeply, like how is trauma showing up in your own organization? How is healing showing up? And then once better understanding what's currently happening, be able to design and pilot new practices and new policies that can help promote healing and reduce punishment. And kind of the goal is to connect expertise, coaching, resources to help make that happen. And so the application is live. You can go to ruralopportunity.org/leaders. And we're looking for any person or team within agencies or organizations that are either located in or serve people in Edgecombe County and that are interested in designing new practices around healing and around being trauma informed. And the specific support that will come through the Resilient Leaders Initiative program, there'll be a lot of support around framing the challenge and really seeking to understand before like implementing anything, engaging with users and building empathy and doing the design process, getting world-class experts and coaching from across the country who have experience implementing trauma-informed solutions in contexts that are similar to our own, and then support around being data-driven and using storytelling and influencing skills to make things sustainable. And how this kind of Resilient Leaders Initiative came about, there was a masterclass that profiled these different programs across the country and world. And so we started by doing some like base learning from that. We had a design insight group, which had 16 people from across different agencies. And they met for 13 weeks over the summer, twice a week.
How about you?
And then there's an advisory cabinet of people from across the country who met a handful of times over the summer. And so just a big thanks to the Design Insight Group, representing places like the community college, local nonprofits, the schools, health department, police, hospital, youth development center, members of Word Tabernacle and the faith community. And then big thanks to the advisory cabinet and people like Judge Tepper, who just kind of shared their expertise. So all this went into kind of creating the curriculum. And we just are excited to announce today, like the application's open. It's a 2-question application. So it's like an interest form. So even if you or someone you know is like unsure if they would want to go forward or a good fit, we encourage you to apply just to get your like name and organization in the hopper. The interest form will be due by January 8th. And then there will be interviews and deeper performance tasks in January, and then teams will be selected in February of 2021. So we'll share all this information in an email also, but just please yourself apply or encourage other people to apply. And to share a little more specifically about how you can spread the word, really excited to introduce ROI's newest team members. We have Tyra and Peyton on the call, and they're going to walk you through some new marketing materials and some ways that you can spread the word. Working to make sure that we support and hire locally. So both Tyra and Peyton are born and raised in Edgecombe and Wilson counties. And so kind of to let them introduce themselves, the transition question will be, what was your favorite part about growing up here in Eastern North Carolina? And then feel free to take it away.
Hey everyone, I'm Peyton. So one of my probably most favorite things, and still is my most favorite thing, is that you can get the mountains and the beach. So, you know, you can kind of pick and choose where you want your vacations to be. And I just think that's probably one of the biggest things that's so awesome. I'll throw it to you, Tyra.
So I'm Tyra. My favorite things about growing up in Eastern North Carolina is barbecue sandwiches and how like country it is out here. I just like nature and the space that's out here. Yeah.
Hey, Yolanda. Okay, so one of the things that we are excited to show you guys, let's see, is our new website. We have done a lot of work and gathered a lot of feedback on how we could improve our website, and we have really tailored it down to some really specific stuff to where it's easier to find out more about us and it's easier to engage with us this way. So this is our new and improved homepage. Really super excited about it. Initiatives and pretty much the hows and the whys of everything that we do. And you can also, this is on another page as well, but it's easier now, and this is what I mean about engagement. It's easier to learn more about the trainings and request like speaker presentations from us now. That was something that wasn't quite as obvious in the past. Scroll back up here. You can learn more about our Resilient Leaders Initiative. This goes a little more in depth about it than what we've done on the slides. And also, if you go to our page, here's the interest form that Seth was talking about. Super easy to fill out. And come back up here. Really excited to display our team members. It's really cool to see the people that make us who we are and the people that we engage with. And we're super excited to show you guys off, and thank you.
So here is our Facebook page. You can find it by searching Rural Opportunity Institute. It's our nice little logo, and we have our Resilient Leaders Initiative in the cover because it's our most important project that's enrolled out right now. And on the page, we have posts about our RLI. So don't be afraid to come check it out and apply. We also have a spotlight on Vici and Seth, and also a startup post. So if you like this Facebook page, in the next 24 hours, you'll be entered into a raffle, and we'll have 3 winners. Next, we also have our Instagram page, same at Rural Opportunity. We just have our welcome post and RLI post. Same thing that's on the Facebook. So both a double post. Soon we'll do spotlights on our community members and other team members. So also, if you follow this page in the next 24 hours, you'll be entered into a raffle, and we'll have 3 winners for the raffle. And yes.
Awesome. Thanks so much. So kind of in any questions from anyone about anything you've seen, and then we'll close it out. A couple quick announcements. We're hiring for 2 part-time roles currently. One's around freelance digital storytelling, so kind of capturing some of the stories of the work that's happening. And then the other is a biofeedback implementation coordinator. So a lot of agencies have requested support around implementing a meditation program. So we'll share these in email after the meeting. But if you or someone you know you think is a good fit, please share this with them. And then the Trauma Informed Communities Project out of Duke is having a training on Wednesday, November 18th from 12 to 3. We'll also email this in the meeting follow-up. It's about how to make inclusive partnerships to help the change initiative when implementing trauma-informed practices. And the next meeting like this one is going to be on Wednesday, April 21st at 12 p.m. and it'll be on Zoom. And then Byron, do you want to close us out?
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank everybody so much for being part of this meeting. Seth already gave you, well, here's some information for our next meeting. I believe Seth gave it to you. Wednesday, April 21st. Video on Zoom. So please fill out the feedback survey so you can learn, so we can learn and improve how to better help, better serve you on this platform. And once you do that, you'll be entered in our raffle. And with the raffle right above on the screen is 2 books. One is called My Grandmother's Hands. And the second one, I cannot see the name. Okay, but what's the name of the second book, sir?
The Body Keeps Score.
Okay, The Body Keeps Score. So this is the official end of our meeting. There will be a listening circle here starting in about 5 minutes after this, led by Yvette Richardson. So if you want to stay on the Zoom call, you can, and just listen to what else we have to offer with the listener circle. Miss Yvette Richardson has done this many times, and she's very proficient at it. So again, thank y'all for being with us on this dreary day through Zoom, but we appreciate y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Byron.
Appreciate you, sir.
I think Vici put the feedback form in the chat, so please fill that out to get entered in the raffle. And then feel free to leave a gratitude in the chat as you close out and kind of sign off. But just thanks for being here and being a part of the work altogether.
Yeah, it's always great seeing everyone.
Thank you. Hey, Seth. Hey, Vici.
Hey.
How's it going?
Yvette.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
Good. Can you all see me?
See you great.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Byron.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm fine, and you? How you doing today?